Residential segregation by race is now worse, more pronounced than it was even in the 60s. That legacy of redlining really created our urban fabric of today. Another thing that happened in the 60s, the California Environmental Quality Act came online. The baseline from which environmental impacts are measured is that racially segregated pattern. In California, we use the nomenclature of the environment to not build housing for people who are here. Normally, when you file a lawsuit, you have to identify who the heck you are. In CEQA, you can conceal your identity. You can also conceal your interest. It's really cheap to file these lawsuits. There are no clear rules. No one with a clue, a bank, an investor, a grantor, is going to allow you to have money to do anything, to build a project, until that lawsuit's resolved. A single family home remodel in Berkeley was in court for 11 years. 98% of the challenged projects, housing projects in the SCAG region were in existing communities. We want smaller footprint, higher density homes. But that was by far the biggest target of these lawsuits. 70% of the challenged housing units were within half mile of our transit corridors, which is supposedly what we want, right, for the environment. But CEQA, built on this very, very intentionally racially segregated housing palette of apartments and those people there, homes and our people here, and 78% of CEQA lawsuits filed against housing are seeking to block housing in the region's wider, wealthier, and healthier areas. This is a civil rights violation. But no, we code ourselves with the environment nomenclature. Owning a home has been by far the most successful pathway for Americans into middle class. But what are we doing? In the name of now climate as well as environment, we're really focused on trying to get people into high-rise and mid-rise apartments. What's the most possibly expensive form of housing we know how to build? High-rise. So when you read in the paper that homeless housing units are costing like $600,000, it's because of this combination of land prices, building typology, and fees. But our current housing policy has us tilting toward housing that is completely unaffordable. We knew from the 60s that the places most likely to be redeveloped were the ones that were minority redlined areas. And the same thing has happened again. Just hugely increased housing costs. The red areas used to have more African American and Latino neighborhoods. They've moved to the blue areas, which are much more affordable. The fabric of their community is ripped apart. Of course we have to reduce greenhouse gas, of course. But how? And who is hurt the most in California? We don't do any accounting of how our climate dollars are spent. California is the biggest purchaser of Teslas. Once that battery plant moved to Reno, we don't count any GHG. We in the Bay Area can invent solutions every day that no one can afford. And you then have to live with them as statewide policies. There are much more effective ways of reducing greenhouse gas than causing this kind of residential racial segregation and keeping people from actually getting to where they need to go. Question the dogma. It doesn't have to be this way, and the solution has to come from you.